live via Facebook streaming, YouTube streaming, and via Skype. Each one of you is welcome to this live streaming. Sutras of Vigyan Bhairav Tantra. Difference between indulgence and being totally into an act. It is basically considered that Tantra is indulgence. This is ignorance and it is out of past conditionings. And also remember, the master is like a physician. You come with your complaints and then the physician does his own checking. He have ways and means to check, and then he prescribes the medicine what he thinks will be good to treat you of that particular ailment. You cannot ask the doctor to give you this medicine or that medicine. You can mention your complaint, he listens to your complaint, but he does his own investigations. If tests are required, he does tests. If something else is required, so that is the entire medical system. Without doing the checks, sometimes it happens he asks you to go and do certain tests before he can prescribe you any medicine. And then he prescribes the medicines based on his own experience. That is how the master works. Listens to your complaints, listens to your queries, and then what he thinks is the best for you, that he prescribes. So this is in relation to a question, today's talk. It is said in one of the sutras that be in the act totally, enjoy and feel the bliss of it, remain in it, and when the body starts shaking, be the shaking. And a person who does not understand the ways and means of Tantra will consider it indulgence. It is the outcome of the unreal personality which is always against enjoying anything. It is always against you. Against you means it does not want you to enjoy anything. And it is always in favor of sacrificing things, sacrificing yourself for others. And it looks beautiful because you have been brought up in this sacrifice yourself for others. But in reality, this is altruism. If you are trying to enjoy yourself, it is considered selfish. And the moment someone says this is selfish, it becomes a sin. Being selfish is sin. Tantra is basically a totally different approach. It says that unless you can enjoy yourself, you cannot help anyone to enjoy. Unless you can enjoy yourself, you cannot help anyone to enjoy. You have not tasted anything. the way it's supposed to be, how can you tell anything to anyone about it? Unless you are really contented with yourself, you cannot serve others. What happens that if you are lost in your own desires, in your own unfulfillment, then you cannot help the other. Unless you are really contented with yourself, there is no way that you can serve others. You cannot help others towards their contentment. The same thing arises about sex. Tantra focuses on transforming this energy. So if you have not experienced anything yourself, if you do not know the nitty-gritty of cooking, how can you teach cooking to others? It is not just taking a recipe and cooking items. There are many nuances of it. Cooking is a balance between heat, ingredients, the temperature, which is the heat, and ingredients to make a particular dish. You must have a total understanding of different ingredients, their effects, their tastes. Only then you will be able to give something to a person. For instance, there are people who are lactose intolerant, so they cannot use the milk products. So paneer is one of the richest source of protein, but it is milk based. How can you make paneer otherwise? There is paneer made out of soya bean, then it can be made out of peanut also. How to do it? If you have not experienced, you cannot just take a recipe you heard from someone and you can tell someone how you can make the paneer from peanuts. You don't know what is the texture, how does it work, and when you have to burst the milk, how you have to do it. Because if you put the concentrated solution of vinegar or lime juice, it will not give that kind of a softness. This comes from the practically you are into it. You know the items, the process in total details. That is how Tantra is. Unless you have gone into it totally yourself, lived it, you cannot help anyone else. Tantra is basically a totally different approach. It says unless you can enjoy yourself, enjoying yourself means being totally into it, like a scientist. When I am in the process of cooking, like a scientist, how the tastes are blended, how the different things takes place, how can you bring about the taste into it. Unless you know the process completely, and then as far as Tantra is concerned, unless you are totally contented with yourself, you cannot serve others. You cannot help others towards their own contentment. Unless you are overflowing with your own bliss, you are a danger to the society, and that is what is happening. People read about Tantra from here and there, and they open the Tantra groups, and they are not of much help. And such a person who is not overflowing with his own bliss, he is a danger to the society, because a person who sacrifices himself for the others is always a sadist. If your mother goes on talking to you and says that I have sacrificed myself for you, she will torture you. If the husband goes on saying to the wife that I am sacrificing, he will be a sadist. He will torture, because sacrifice is just a trick to torture others. Those who are always sacrificing are dangerous, they are potentially dangerous. Be aware of them and do not focus on sacrificing. You have not tasted a particular dish. How can you sacrifice for others? This world is very ugly. Enjoy yourself. When you enjoy yourself, you will be filled with bliss. And when you are overflowing with your own bliss, that bliss will reach to the others. If you have lived your life totally, any particular act totally, you are overflowing and you can be a great help to the others. And this is not sacrifice. No one is obliged to you. No one needs to thank you. Rather, you will feel grateful to others because they have been participating in your bliss. I am thankful to all those people who listen to these talks, because the words are the manifestation of bliss. The flower has blossomed, the bud has become the flower. Its beauty and the fragrance cannot remain contained in the flower. It goes on spreading, and although the flower does not bother, but it cannot say anything, but deep down the flower feels obligated that you have participated in my bliss, in the overflow. The words like sacrifice, duty, service are all ugly as far as Tantra is concerned, but in normal religious terminology, these are considered to be very good, that you are doing this service. Tantra says, unless you are filled with light, how can you help others to be enlightened? You are not filled with light. You do not have a torchlight. Every tourist guide must have in his equipment certain things. Light is one of the important things. Unless you are filled with your own light, unless you are overflowing bliss, there is no way that you can help others. Your words will be empty. Be selfish. Only then you can be altruistic. Otherwise, the whole concept of altruism remains empty and nonsense. Be happy. When you have been happy within yourself, then you can help the others to be happy. I have heard a psychiatrist was in his office brooding. A woman walks in and says, "Doctor, I have a problem." The psychiatrist said, "Go inside the room, undress yourself and lie on the table for me to examine you." The woman did it. Then the psychiatrist jumped over the woman, and then, zipping up his pants, he said, "Now that I have solved my problem, tell me, what is your problem?" This is the situation with each one of us. We have our own problems, because a man who did not get job was this problem or that, so he starts doing this social work and he is helping the others. You do not have the money on your own, but you formed a charitable organization. You are begging the donations from the others, and then you are going to help the others. This is the way the society goes on. Be happy only if you are really happy, contented, full of light, then you can be of help to others. If you are sad, unhappy, bitter, how can you help the others? If you are suffering from your own problems, you cannot help the others. You can become the so-called saint. That is not very difficult. But look at your so-called religious people. They are trying in every possible way to torture everyone who comes to them. But their torturing is very deceptive. They torture you for their own sake, and that is how the society is going on. You are preaching something to us which you are not practicing. They are always preaching something but not practicing it. And what is wrong with enjoying yourself? What is wrong in being happy? If there is anything wrong, it is always your unhappiness. An unhappy person creates ripples of unhappiness around him. A blissful person carries the ripples of happiness all around. You can sit down for a little while. If you really sit down in a garden in a spring season, your whole energy begins to transform, change. If you come in the company of one who is overflowing bliss, you listen to him, something begins to change within you. It may be momentary, but if these moments are put together, then that process becomes the process of transformation. And the sex act, the act of love, can be one of the deepest means through which bliss can be attained. If you have experienced the bliss of it totally, you are contented. You will create a heaven inside your house. Your house will become a paradise. The way you deal with the children, your family members, people around, in your office, people on the street, wherever you go, you will treat them totally different. It is the rays of bliss are emitting out of your being. When Swami Vivekananda was speaking in the Parliament of Religions, It was the day that we remember in the history is 9/11. The day the bombs, the Trade Center in New York was attacked. But 11th of September 1893, a young monk traveled from India to Chicago to attend the Parliament of Religions. Some of his anecdotes are he was in a totally different kind of a garb. A dress code was prescribed. The dress code says tie, suit and this and that, but he was in his usual Indian garb. So someone asked, why can't you wear the gentleman clothes? His terse reply was, in your culture, it is the tailor who makes you a gentleman. In your culture, it is the tailor who makes you a gentleman. In my culture, it is the character that makes me a gentleman. The character that makes me a gentleman. So he was given less time. People were jeering and mocking at his clothes, a turban on the head, a long flowing robe. So when he walked to the podium very gently, and the 5 words that he spoke, first 5 words, first he looked at the entire audience, he spoke 5 words. Sisters and brothers of America, the entire audience of 7,000 plus stood up on their feet, and for 2.5 minutes the clapping continued. Then he spoke, it fills my heart to an unspeakable joy for the welcome that you have given to me. It was totally different. When he was speaking, Margaret Noble, who later on came to be known as Sister Nivedita, she said, Swamiji, when you were speaking in the Parliament of Religions, it appeared as if rays of light was emitting out of you. If you had asked us to plunge into the ocean, we would have done it. Vivekananda responded, when I was speaking in the Parliament of Religions, the words were mine, the voice was mine, but the force behind my voice was of that haggard man. When you have experienced bliss, when you have experienced total contentment, when you are a light unto yourself, then whatsoever emits, manifests out of you is the manifestation of that light. That is the reason the title for the next publication is, now the one that is published, Light Unto Myself. Another anecdote was, one day Vivekananda was speaking in the university. One of the universities, the talk finished, he was still talking to 2 or 3 persons. A young girl was watching him, looking at him attentively. Vivekananda noticed that, and after he finished with those persons, he went to her. He said, Madam, you are looking at me, what can I help you? She said, Swamiji, I want to have a child like you, want to have a child with you. Vivekananda responded, that is not a problem. You can have a child like me. So she said, I want to marry you. He said, for having a child you need not marry. So she got even more happy that this man seems to be too advanced, that he says there is no need of marriage to have a child. This is what she understood, but what Vivekananda meant to say, he said, there is no guarantee that marrying me, I cannot guarantee you that marrying me, I can give you a child like me, but you can certainly have me as your child, which will be exactly the same. You can have me as your child, as your son. But marriage does not guarantee that you will have a child exactly with that kind of DNA that I am. This is the character. He carried that. That's why he said, in our culture, it is the character that makes one a gentleman. So Tantra says it is not teaching sexuality. It's simply saying that sex can be source of bliss like anything else. If you are a master chef, you know everything. You can create the dishes, you can help others to create the same thing. If you watch me doing the cooking and you are very introspective, you watch, if somebody is learning from me, I can keep on explaining the details of each step that I take and its significance. And then when you create the dish out of your own, it will have the same taste. Because firstly, the moment you are creating that dish, you are remembering my words. Practically that scene is in front of your eyes when I was adding different ingredients, and I keep on mentioning to you. This is the reason that Tantra says that sex can be a source of bliss. And once you know that bliss, you can go further, because now you are grounded in reality. One is not to remain with sex forever. If you have eaten a balanced food, you will not be looking what to eat now. If you go and you take a donut and a coffee, or a big fries and a Coke, these are empty calories. Our life is some total of empty calories. We eat food that have empty calories. All the acts are empty calories, because they do not nourish and nurture our consciousness, nourish and nurture our physical being, our eyes. If you look at the food, what is the beauty of the food? It is described that Indian food is like a bride. Well, so bride or a person to appeal to you must be good looking, must be smelling good, and must be tasting good also. So when the food is being prepared in the kitchen or is being brought to you, the smell first is the smell that reaches your nostrils. Yes, it is smelling good. Second, the look of it. If the food that comes in front of you does not have a good look, it is not appealing to you. So the ambience in all the restaurants, we have the ambience of red color, red and gold. Chinese restaurants have the red and gold color ambience. Indian restaurant, different shades of red. Red opens up your appetite. That's why the Indian food must have a reddish color, different shades of it, and that opens up your appetite. So then second is the look. Third, the taste. So the person who knows very well how to blend the taste, he blends everything together, uses the aromatic spices, uses the process by adding the different ingredients at different stages, the aroma is retained. Then aromatic spices, they enhance the aroma of the food, then the color of it, and all these things put together brings the taste into you. So if you have known the bliss, and this only a master chef can do it. If you are a novice, you do not know, or you're pretending to be a chef, you cannot create a dish like that. That is why sometimes it happens that when you are accustomed going to a particular restaurant, and suddenly the chef changes, you will recognize very easily that this food is cooked by a different chef. So Tantra is not teaching you sexuality. It simply says sex can be source of bliss, food can be source of bliss. And when you have eaten the balanced food full of nutrition, then you will not be hungry, and you will not be saying that what to eat now. You have eaten this, now still you are. Sometimes you have heard people saying that, I still want to eat something. Although you have eaten a full platter of the food, but still I want to eat something. Mouth feels to eat something. Empty calories. I have never had an occasion when I have to say that I want to eat something else. So I make sure whatever is available, I take all that, and once I have finished with that, I am finished. Once you know the bliss, you can go further because you are grounded in your reality. One is not to remain in sex forever. You cannot. You eat in the morning breakfast. If the breakfast is total, if the breakfast is fulfilling, then until lunchtime you don't need anything. Or you may skip the lunch even, then dinner. So you can never remain whole day eating. So you can never remain in sex forever. It has to finish one day. You transcend beyond that, and that state is transcending beyond that. But you can use sex as a jumping point, like when you go to dive, you take a jumping board, you jump from that and take a dive. That is what Tantra means. You can use sex as a jumping point, and once you have known the ecstasy of sex, you can understand what mystics have been talking about: a greater orgasm, a cosmic orgasm. Then sitting down by yourself or on the seashore, you can experience the bliss. Meera is dancing. You cannot understand her. You cannot even understand her songs. They are sexual. Their symbology is sexual. This is bound to be because in human life, sex act is the only act in which you come to feel non-duality, in which you come to feel a deep oneness, in which the past disappears, future does not emerge, only present moment remains. Only the present is the only real moment that remains. It brings oneness, deepest oneness. So all those mystics who have really known oneness with the divine, now you are experiencing this because you are at that level through the spouse, through the other. But the mystic experiences this with the divine, oneness with the existence itself, and that is the cosmic orgasm. Once you have experienced, you have to start practicing it at the level that you are in. You are at the level of the body. You have to experience this oneness through the body. And during the act, if you are really into it, not mentally into it, you will experience for certain moments you disappear, as if you did not exist. You forget everything. You are totally into it, and that state of oneness is the real purpose of act. So all these mystics who have really known oneness with the divine, oneness with the existence itself, they have always used sexual terms and symbols for their experience to express it. There is no other symbology. There is no other symbology that comes closer to it. It is the only symbology that explains that oneness, that closeness that you sometimes experience in the act of sex with the other. The past disappears, but if past remains and future remains, then you are not in that moment. You have not had the balanced act. Just as if when you go to a restaurant, what kind of talks we engage into it. The dish is in front of you, but you remain thinking of what you ate last time when you went to the other restaurant. Or that next time when we will go to that place, because I have heard that place is really beautiful, then why have you come here? So you are wasting time, and this we consider as socializing. The food is in front of you, but you are talking about something else. You are somewhere else. You are not available to that moment. You are not available to the food that can give you satiation. You are in the act. Be totally into it. No past, no future. But sometimes it happens. The past and future disappears, and you remain only in that moment. That is why there is no other symbology that can explain it even better. Sex is just the beginning, but not the end. But if you miss the beginning, you will miss the end as well. And you cannot escape the beginning to reach the end. You have to reach somewhere. There is a beginning, there is an end. You cannot start your journey from the middle. No. You want to go somewhere, you start your journey from where you are. You are at this point A. From here you can discover, you can check the distance, the time distance to your destination, the time factor needed or time that it will take to take you from your beginning to the end. That is why we have these Google Maps and other the apps that can help you. So you have to know where you are, and from there your journey has to begin to reach to the end. You have to take life naturally, not in an unreal manner. Sex is there as a deepest possibility, a great potentiality. You can use it. There is nothing wrong in being happy with it. We'll continue this talk in tomorrow's session. Until then, take care and do have a pleasant day.